birds here who know what birds we heard. What bird did you hear? Baardmannetjes. I immediately believe what you say. Sorry? Bearded parrot pits. I'm sorry, I'm going to need this one because kennismarkerwadden.nl. Kennismarkerwadden.nl. And this link has been shared with all our contacts who did not register for the conference. Just good to know. So my name is Desiree Hoving. I'll be your moderator for this 2-day conference. Today we are here at the BIM House. Tomorrow we are in another location. And I'm curious to know who you all are. And I would love to go with a microphone to each one of you, but let me do it in another way and use menti.com. Must be familiar to you after the pandemic. You've used it probably more often. You can grab your phone, scan the QR code with your photo camera, or if you prefer to open your browser, you can go to menti.com and press the code. So I hope everyone is connected to the internet. And if you are on menti.com, you see the first question: what sector do you work in? Are you from the government, from a private company, from an NGO, a university or knowledge institute, or another organization? Oh. Instructions. Did you open the, I can't see the first question either. Oh, it's now there. Thanks. In a split second, it was there. So with how diverse is our company here today? Because we have been cooperating with a lot of different organizations and people in here. So we find a lot of universities and knowledge institutes, and the people who are connected with us here with us via the live stream can also use menti.com. So actually we are measuring not everyone in here, but everyone joining us from abroad as well. So most people are here from a university or knowledge institute. A lot of researchers, a lot of NGOs are present in here, governments. Actually, I didn't expect this would be so balanced. Good to know. And what other companies did we forget then? Then I'm curious. Or what other kind of organizations could you call? Who pressed other? No? Okay. Okay, then we won't. We will never know. Sorry? Interested individuals. That's a good one. Okay, a lot of interested individuals. I have another question for you. What is your field of expertise or main topic of interest? Is that ecology, dredging, building with sediments, nature restoration, water quality, landscape design, recreation? One third is an expert in ecology, or even more. Water quality, nature restoration. Those are the largest groups. There are not so many people experts in recreation, but fortunately there are experts. So from all fields, there are people in here. So the most innovation begins where diverse group of people comes together. So that has been the case last 5 years, and I'm glad we are all here today. My last question for you to get you to know you a bit better is, what is the first word that comes into your mind when you think of Marker Wadden? So this is an open question. Any word will do. I mean, any answer is a good answer. So it can be, oh, I won't give you any examples. Birds. That's the first thing, of course. A lot of animals I see, and mud, nature, biodiversity, watercolors, design, success, new, fabulous, innovative, dreams, a swamp, a delta swamp, proud. So the biggest words are the words with that more than one person has named. So birds, proud, island. That's your connection for today. Really nice. We are going to remember this because we are going to use your answers later on in the program. Thank you for getting to know you a bit better. What are we going to do today? Today we are going to look into all research results of the past 5 years. We have been monitoring the Marker Wadden intensively, and tomorrow we are going to look more into the future. So what are we going to do with those research results? How are we going to apply them? And how are we going to use the concept of the Marker Wadden for other areas in a wider context of nature-based solutions for ecosystem restoration? For the official welcome, I'm not the person to say this. So I would like to invite the Director of Safety in Water at Rijkswaterstaat. Give her a warm welcome, Katja Portegies. Katja, welcome. Yeah, I can say welcome to you, but there's a whole audience for you on this very special day. What would you like to say to them?
Well, thank you, Chair. Well, of course, my name is Katja Portegies, and I'm very glad to be with you here. And I'm very proud, on behalf of the steering committee of the KIMA research program, to welcome you all to this International KIMA Congress on the Marker Wadden here in Amsterdam.
Wow. Well, that deserves an applause, you think? Yes. Oh, this must be a very special day for you to celebrate this in such a nice location.
Yes, it is.
House. Yes. So what makes the Marker Wadden so special for you?
Well, I always say you only understand why it's so special once you have visited it. So I invite you all to go this Friday to the Marker Wadden and enjoy this special environment of these islands. And not only because it gives you the opportunity to say goodbye to the office environment or the urban environment and to enjoy this environment of nature, a nature-based solution that's alive, but also because you can enjoy all the aspects of water management that come together in this nature-based solution that the Marker Wadden is. It's about water safety, it's about water quality, it's about nature restoration, it's about drinking water quality, and of course about climate adaptation. And that makes it a very big picture, I think, as a nature-based solution for the water management in the Netherlands.
Indeed. Actually, you've already answered my second question, but what makes the Marker Wadden so innovative then?
Well, look at that picture. It's of course not only because of the scale and the design, but of course it's also about how this project started with the only goal that there was the nature conservation, the restoration of the water quality, to reinforce the nature in the Markermeer. And that's really special for a project to have only that goal. And that goal was embraced by the initiative of our Dutch Society of Nature Conservative. It's the so-called NGO Natuurmonumenten. You will hear about Roel Posthoorn, of course, later this morning. And it's the father of the Marker Wadden, I think. And well, because of this initiative and the close cooperation with the government, there was the recipe of the implementation of this project.
Yeah, that was the magic recipe. But how did this research, did this knowledge and innovation came to life 5 years ago? Can you remember that?
Well, I wasn't there at the start, but of course I have got a lot of information, and it was really special. And it took a lot of energy from all parties to start with this KIMA research program. I would like to, say that it's not just an initiative of energy and people wanting to embrace this goal, but as people who believe in working together on a research program, collecting data with a lot of possibilities to achieve.
Yeah. And we already said today we're going to talk about research. Tomorrow we're going to talk about the future. What do you expect from today and tomorrow?
Well, because of this initiative that Natuurmonumenten, Rijkswaterstaat, Ecoscience and Deltares, they collect all the data, and it was about applied research, universities, academic research. The engineers collect a lot of data. Of course, during the building of this project, there was also a lot of inside knowledge, and it all was integrated in this research program. And I think we can share all these insights with all the other project initiatives in the world, but also in the Netherlands, because, well, learning and by doing and from project to project, I think that's a recipe to face the big challenges that will be on their way.
Yeah, thank you so much for opening this conference officially, and I wish you a very good, enjoyable conference. Thank you so much.
Thank you all, and enjoy.
Yes. So I'd like to invite, Katja already said, the father of the Marker Wadden, and who would that be? I like to mention this more often today. I like the word father. I'd like to invite, I say this officially now, the director of Marker Wadden at Natuurmonumenten, Roel Posthoorn. Yes. And Roel, you're going to give a speech for us, so the stage is yours.
Yes, thank you. And I will come back to this fathering thing. So, but first, 10 years ago, 2012, Marker Wadden was not more than an idea, a dream. And now in 2022, it is a reality. And let me take you briefly through these 10 years. From time to time, it was a roller coaster experience. But at the end of the day, Well, most of you have been there, have seen the development, and most of you also will join us on Friday. And then we will see what came out of nothing. During these 10 years, we worked out the dream, the concepts. We collected the necessary budget for the first phase of Marker Wadden. We prepared the tender process, started the building of the islands in 2016. And we started an extensive research and innovation program in 2017. We built a small settlement, and there you find, among other things, research facilities, and the development of the islands was carefully registered in a documentary broadcasted on national television last year. And a careful listener might notice that with all these steps, all these outcomes, I use the word we, because one of the signatures and success factors of Marker Wadden is the close cooperation, as Katja already mentioned, between government bodies, NGO, private companies, research institutes, and we all together worked with great diligence and promptness. And now we are here discussing the results and the outcome of the first phase of Marker Wadden. And whilst we are discussing here in Amsterdam, the last bird counts tell us that thousands of birds are feeding and resting on and around the islands. And also today, the building of the 6th and 7th island goes on. So what we have learned will be discussed today and tomorrow. And preparing my introduction for today, I thought, what did I learn in these 10 years? So I like to share 3 personal lessons, and it's about the importance of a strong focus on mutual gains, that's 1. The importance of beauty, that's 2. And the pioneering energy. So on mutual gains. When I go back to 2012, I remember I was convinced that the idea of Marker Wadden was a good cause to go for. But that Natuurmonumenten never could realize this on their own. Cooperation was a necessity. Build a team, find a consultancy to elaborate the plans, find a contractor to build the islands, but most of all, find partners who want to join in this adventure. And what could be the mutual benefit, the mutual gain for partners to join in? Personally, I had some rather obscure objectives. I wanted to realize a bird paradise. What's that? And I wanted to work on love. Because that was what I saw as a major problem, the complete lack of love for the Markermeer as it is. If you deal with it gently, it will open up and show its beauty. So a bird paradise and working on love, that was at least a starting point for the negotiations. And then the crucial step was to start listening to all the other parties involved. What are their interests? The interest of other parties and potential partners. And can we combine these interests in multiple objectives? And that was how it worked. So Marker Wadden is a project with 4 main objectives. Improving water quality. That was key for the Ministry of Transport and Water Management. Improving the natural system, the bird life, the fish and other life. Most important for the Ministry of Agriculture and Nature. Making room for recreation. Involving people, welcoming people to enjoy nature, province of Flevoland. And we came up with a 4th objective. As an answer to the criticism in the beginning, you will never make it. It's not possible to improve the Markermeer. You can never work at the right scale. Islands will sink away. You need to spend most of the money on building concrete seawalls. So together with our partners, we formulated the 4th objective. Make room for innovation. If it's not possible yet, we're going to find out how it can be possible. Make room for people and organizations that help to make it possible. Innovation in the tender process. in the execution of the work by Boskalis, and of course, through the Knowledge and Innovation Program. So not just a collaboration between different partners, but focusing on the mutual gains, sharing the value of what we have created together. So my second personal lesson is on beauty. The importance of working on the aesthetical values of what you are building, beauty in the heart of the project. All too often this is neglected or seen as a luxury in projects. But the careful design of the islands and the settlement and the fine-tuning outside, almost painting with a bulldozer, making the dunes. So that was really amazing to see. And now we have beautiful beaches, dunes, footpaths, bird hides, views on still waters. And the project was rewarded with the Dutch Design Award. And beauty is a difficult topic for scientific research, but it makes that you actually can fall in love with Marker Wadden, or perhaps fall in love on Marker Wadden depending on how romantic your imagination is. And I want to take this opportunity to thank with all my heart the funders and workers on the research program. And most of all you, the workers in the field, struggling in the mud, surviving the waves, dealing with poor logistics, especially in the beginning. Thank you all for your valuable work, challenging and improving all the assumptions we had to work with when we started this adventure. And that brings me to my last personal lesson, and that is the energy of pioneering. Pioneering is struggling. It's hardship. It's going where no one went before. And that is a key characteristic of Marker Wadden. But pioneering, for me, is not only struggling. It also can generate an enormous energy. And that is what it is to me. When I saw the short footage Kees van Kempen filmed on Marker Wadden, I thought this lesson of the energy of pioneering needs no further introduction. So I'd like you to show a short film on Marker Wadden. Thank you.
The Dutch are world famous for mastering water and creating land from the sea. A body of seawater was split off by dam building. Disconnected from natural rivers, this inland lake began to die. Here was the perfect opportunity for Dutch ingenuity to combine with ambition. A unique worldwide project to create land from sand and excess sediments from the bottom of the lake. These sediments are also known as mud. The new land was soon discovered by passing explorers. At the same time, it was extensively researched by scientists. They began to discover the great potential of islands built with humble mud, both above and below the waterline. Marker Wadden became a living laboratory, going through several stages of development. As research moved on, nature complemented it. New phases brought new forms of life, en masse. Nature lovers were now welcomed, free to roam across the first island of the archipelago. This was just the beginning. At this early stage, over 600 plant and animal species have been recorded. And extensive research leads to more knowledge about building with mud. It's a world first in an innovative collaboration between government, the private sector and Natuurmonumenten. If we build it, they will come.
First, we go a bit back. We're going a bit too fast through the presentation here. Roel, I wanted to ask you if you remember what people's association was with the Marker Wadden. Could we maybe put that slide up with those words? Because you were talking about beauty and birds and love, I remember. Here people were thinking of birds, they were proud, an island. What do you think when you see these associations of the audience?
Oh, they're all true. So that's without any doubt. Yes. So for me, it has very much to do with love for the landscape. Deal with it gently, as I stated. So that's for me so crucial. And now, of course, I really enjoy the bird life, and that was a key objective to improve that situation. But the fact that Marker Meer is now, I think, loved by many, many more people. So that's why I'm very pleased with. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're also proud. I don't see the word love, but I guess is there? Didn't I look? Oh, it is there. Okay. It is already there. Okay. You pushed it there. Okay. So we would come back to the word father. Once again. Yeah. So if you've been called the father, so as a father, how do you look to your offspring? What do you expect from it?
Well, especially today, the word father needs a bit of explanation, because so Marker Wadden is an initiative that only could take place because a lot of research has been done on Marker Meer before. So many years there was a lot of studying going on, looking at potential interventions, how to improve the situation of Marker Meer. So you could say there are many fathers of the different concepts of Marker Wadden. It is true that I started the initiative of Marker Wadden, but I don't feel specifically a father of. So there's many more people you have to thank and that have made this possible by all the steps that have been taken in advance. So also research was key in the preparation of coming to the step of Marker Wadden. Yeah.
Okay, so
but I feel proud.
Many.
I feel happy. Mostly, I feel happy to see that we managed to make it a success together. So that makes me really, really glad.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people will share that feeling, won't we? There are a lot of proud people in here, or not? Yeah. I won't come to you with a microphone. Just hold your hand, and then we know enough. So, Roel, what do you expect of this special day?
Well, this element of energy. So the energy is also very important in the natural system. So Marker Meer was more or less a very poor ecosystem, and now by creating these islands, we also see that the life is coming at a higher level back. So the life in the water, the plankton and the bird life and the fish, etc. But it also has to deal with the energy of us together. And what I really hope is that, for me, Marker Wadden was also, it was work. Most of the time, works cost energy, but this was a very special way of working. So this generated a lot of energy whilst working, and that was such a beautiful thing. And the last years, we had several meetings also with the researchers, and the energy I felt there, I hope to feel that again these days, and I hope that it tastes for more. So that I'm hungry for more research in all this collaboration. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Let's have a look at the research. Thank you for now, Roel Posthoorn. We'll see you
welcome.
back. you would like to ask a question. Why not?
You used mud from the Marker
Yes.
to build the Marker Wadden.
Yes.
Why did you also use a lot of polluted mud
Yes.
in other areas?
Well, it's a good question because there is a rumor on that, and it's not true. So it's a false statement. We did not use polluted sediment. It does not exist. It's not the right word. So we only used reusable sediment, and almost, I think, 96% came from the direct vicinity of Marker Wadden, and only a small amount came from a little bit further away. And last year we had one incident of sediment that was brought, and that did not apply to the standards we have. It was still reusable, but we didn't want it on Marker Wadden, and we removed it. So it's simply not true.
Can I ask you what organization you are? Maybe you can.
I am Willem Gouwswaard from the IJsselmeervereniging.
Okay, good to know.
We are actually, it is a nice experiment, and the islands are beautiful, but we are also a little bit critical because we are a little bit disappointed that we lose a lot of open water.
Okay, we will talk about that later if you don't mind, because we have a full program. But thank you for introducing yourself and for the question. Yeah. Thank you. So let's have a look at 5 years of research in a very short time, actually. The Marker. I would like to invite the lead for this research, who is also advisor of freshwater ecology and water quality at Deltares, Sacha de Rijk. Yes, an applause for you. And after Sacha's presentation, I believe that we have some time for questions. And I'm looking around now. Did everybody receive a paper? Oh, you will now get a piece of paper. If you do have a question for Sacha, please write one question down on this paper. Try to fold. How do you say, a paper plane from it. But don't throw it yet. It's tempting to throw it immediately if you have a question, but we will throw it all together on my count after the presentation. And and don't be afraid, we won't answer your question, because we will take all questions to the afternoon session. So they will be input for the afternoon sessions as well. So I would like to give the floor to you, Sacha.
Thank you, Desiree. Well, our topic today is the Knowledge and Innovation Program of Marker Wadden, KIMA. And this morning I'm going to show you the highlights of 5 years of research. Yesterday I had 5 minutes on the island, but today I have a little bit more time. But it still is too short to show you everything. Back to the area itself. Lake Markermeer, as you saw in the film, it's a freshwater lake. It's a shallow lake, a mean depth of 4 meters. It's a huge lake in Dutch terms, 700 square kilometers. And if you walk or cycle around it, you have a trip of 150 kilometers. It's turbid water. It's not transparent. It's an isolated lake, and it has controlled water levels. That means that in the summer the level is higher than in the winter. So that's the opposite from a natural lake. The waves are driven by the wind, and it has artificial shorelines. And why does it have artificial shorelines, dikes and dams? That is to do with the history. So I'll give you a short history of the area. The whole area used to be an inland sea, and with brackish water. And on the right picture, you see a map of 1740, showing a brackish inland sea with flourishing shorelines, with flourishing industry, fishing industry, and important ports. It was dammed off in 1932 with the Afsluitdijk in the north. And Marker Meer was further dammed off in 1976. So the present situation is this. On the right hand, you see the whole area of IJsselmeer with, I have a pointer here, but with the dike in the north, so the IJsselmeer area. And on the left hand, you see an aerial picture of the Marker Meer. And where you see that it's turbid waters. What you see on the right hand is that a lot of it became smaller because a lot of the area is reclaimed. Because at that time we needed surface areas for agriculture purposes. But the Marker Meer was meant to be reclaimed as well. But in the 70s we didn't need so much space anymore for agriculture. So it stayed a lake. It stayed an important recreational area. So why Marker Wadden? Well, Roel told you a little bit about it. The lake experienced some problems. It's isolated, the water quality is low, there was a decline in fish stock and bird life, but there was a Natura 2000 area, or is still a Natura 2000 area with targets for fish and birds. It has a low habitat diversity and a low productivity. Then stakeholders in the area made a wish list. And it's much longer than the wish list I present here, but these are the most important points. The wishes were improving the water quality, having a higher productivity, increasing this fish and bird life to get to these Natura 2000 goals, of course, and more natural land-water transitions, because now all the shorelines are artificial, the dikes and dams, and the ecological important zones for biodiversity are the land-water transition. So that was one of the wishes for the area. And the other wish was a gradient, because now it's all turbid, but we needed a gradient from transparent to turbid waters. So not a whole complete transparent lake, but the gradient. And a connection between habitats along the shorelines with each other for birds and fish. So as you saw in a short movie, building started in 2016. That's on the left-hand side, the first movements. Then you see that vegetation appeared quite rapidly in 2017 and 18. And then on the right, you see aerial pictures of last year and this year. And what was crucial in this design was, you see it on the left-hand, lower left picture, are these sandy edges. These sandy edges were built to protect the islands, because the islands were made of the mud. And this behavior of the sandy exposed shores was studied intensively and provided us with unique lessons, because there's not much knowledge about these sandy shorelines in a lake setting. So when the building started, we also wanted to have a research, a monitoring and research program. So in 2017, we started with KIMA. And I want to shortly introduce you to the three themes we wanted to address in this program. First of all, building with sediment. Of course, we wanted to know how can you build these islands with mud from the Marker Meer itself. And the second theme was, of course, the ecology. How does the nature develops? How fast does it go? What are the lessons learned to be from that? And what does it mean for the whole lake system? And besides the technological and ecological challenges and aspects, building Marker Wadden gives you also new insights in decision making, financial constructions, cooperation forms, etc. So therefore we introduced a third theme, and that was more about the governance. So I will shortly show you from every theme a few highlights. Well, first of all, building with mud. Well, in the end, it worked. So, but we found out that filling was done with the excess of mud available in the lake at a controlled water level. And in each compartment, you could control the water level. And after filling, the consolidation started. And it went very quickly. And most of the time, an additional fill was needed to reach stable height. Of course, the mud is not homogeneous. There are differences in composition. And that created a kind of morphology, a bumpy surface, which is very good for varied habitats on the surface itself. And some facts in the experimental compartments, you see it on the top picture, you see these square compartments, that's where we did our experiments. The consolidation of the fine sediment was 1.6 meters in 2 years, but most of this consolidation took place in the first 3 months. And the subsidence, which is still going on, is 0.1 meter at this place of the experimental compartments. It varies through the area in centimeters and depending on the composition of the sediment above. So vegetation, well, soon after construction, vegetation appeared. The top picture shows you, I forgot the English name, but moerasandijvie, the first pioneering species. And the left one, below is a picture of last summer, and you see more colors. There was also a reed, because the wish was to have a reed marsh, and the reed had to be protected because as soon as it started growing, the geese came and they had a wonderful food source. So when we fenced off the reed, so protected the reed, then the geese couldn't get there, and once there was a core formed of reed, it could expand. And that's what you see on the right hand side. And also vegetation maps were made of all the islands, not only the island where you can visit, but all the islands using drones and ground truth. Of course, you already saw in the film that birds immediately found Marker Wadden. And the first species were resting on bare grounds. The first species were common tern, little tern, or Kentish plover. But nowadays we see also marsh species starting to appear, like the one you see here on the top. And the breeding community increased quite rapidly, 43 species in 2020 and 47 already in last year, 21. And all these bird observations were done from the air, from planes, or from the ground by professionals, but also by volunteers. And in this way, we know all this monitoring shows you that we are getting closer to Natura 2000 goals. And at this moment, we are already contributing to the national Natura 2000 goals. The first years we saw an explosion of fish food, and mainly Daphnias, but there was no fish. But from 2020, first fishes started to appear, and at this moment we have 30 kilometers of habitat for spawning habitats. So that's quite a lot, and we've already seen 14 species spawning there. And also visitors, 26 species visiting Marker Wadden on a regular basis. And the key is this mosaic of shallow habitats. But we also saw that larger fish, the underwater landscape is very important for the fish. And that's the lower picture. You see echo sounding of the sand extraction pits, which are 25 meters deep, and also have a lot of fish inside. Well, the other goal of the Marker Wadden was to improve the water quality. And in fact, it's a little bit too soon to say that, but we have some results. This picture shows you the modeling results. We show that there is already a small improvement on the lee side of the Marker Wadden. The picture on the left shows you the water quality improvement. Around the Marker Wadden, and the blue colors showing lower concentration of dry matter in the upper water column. And you see that there's more blue colors. And a benefit of this transparent water is that in a normal situation, in a turbid lake, you have the algae trapped together with the sediment and not available for as a food source. So that's the benefit of the transparent waters. As I told you, we also looked at the governance aspects, and Roel told you already about the special collaboration between an NGO and a governmental institute like Rijkswaterstaat. And this was quite unique because it's never seen before that an initiative of such a big hydraulic engineering project was taken by an NGO. And the difference between Natuurmonumenten and Rijkswaterstaat couldn't be bigger, but in fact that worked really well because the tasks were divided based on their core capacities. Well, not only scientists did or researchers did the monitoring, there was a lot of data collection by volunteers. And we saw that the participation was making it easier for people to support such a project. And in the future, Marker Wadden is really, there are a lot of opportunities to incorporate volunteers or schools or education. Well, that brings me to my last slide and the end of my presentation. And in conclusion, I can say that all researchers have been fascinated by the surprises and also by the challenges of doing fieldwork here. And what we saw is that monitoring and research made it possible to start learning the lessons on building and realization such a huge nature restoration project. And these lessons will be very valuable for other areas in the Netherlands or outside, dealing with fine sediment, too much fine sediment, or loss of biodiversity. And I hope you're very eager to learn more in the afternoon sessions, where you can get involved in discussions with the specialists. Okay, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. I expect a lot of questions for you, but are you ready writing them? Shall we give you a little bit more time? Sometimes people even fold a bird out of this paper. That would be...
Baardmannetje.
Yeah, yeah, maybe even. So when you throw me a bird, then you're guaranteed that your question will be answered. Extra challenge. Yeah. I see people writing, but we only have time for one question on each paper. Okay, shall we count all together? Oh, shall we count? Then I like the photographer to make a picture of all of us throwing. Shall we count? Are you ready? Okay, as long as the paper arrives here, then you're right. It doesn't have to we won't give you a prize for the best. No, we'll count. We'll count. Okay, let's just do it. Okay, from 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go! Thank you. And are there any birds in here flying?
So planes.
There are a lot of beautiful planes. Thank you. Well, this is the best plane, I think. The best plane because it reached most far. So, what did you learn from cooperating with an? This is a question in Dutch. An aannemer. What's the contractor? Yeah. What did you learn from cooperating with a contractor?
Well, it's an interesting question because that was a challenge from at the beginning, because we had two opposite interests. The builder wanted to build, and we wanted to do research.
Yeah.
And we wanted to do research and show them how to build, which was maybe not such a good idea because they knew already. But in the end, we needed each other because we needed to do fieldwork there. And they also wanted to know what we were measuring and monitoring and what our results were. So I think after a difficult start, we managed to find each other. And for me, I think it's also the future of more learning by doing. If we want to succeed with innovations, we have to have two projects together, the monitoring and the research and the building, and more learning by doing.
Exactly. Well, great. I love this one as well. Very creative. Yes. Why not? Why not? Just do it. All right. How much did the construction of the Marker Wadden reduce the turbidity of the lake? And there's another question. And how much would opening the dike reduce the turbidity? How much would opening the dike reduce the turbidity? So the first is how much did the construction reduce? Yeah.
Well, constructing the Marker Wadden did not reduce the turbidity. It increased the turbidity because of the activities. Mm-hmm. One of the aerial pictures, you already saw a plume of sediment. Mm-hmm. But the years to come, we will see the impact of the Marker Wadden on the lake system.
Yeah, and now it has become less already.
Yeah, because the islands are finished.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
and is there anything to say how much opening the dike would reduce it?
Yeah. Well, back to how it was.
Yeah.
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 Well, the dike is not going to move.
No, but I don't know if there are any models if there were any models made, what the expectations would be.
Well, if you remove both dikes, the Afsluitdijk and the Houtripdijk, then you will go back to a brackish inland sea.
Exactly.
But if that's safe,
yeah,
are people from living there happy with that?
That's also another good question.
Yeah.
If you would remove the Houtripdijk, what would happen?
I think every year the question pops up. Why don't we remove the Houtripdijk?
Yeah.
But open it. Yeah.
Open it.
Open it completely.
Okay.
Yeah.
To get more water. Yeah. Yeah.
It would probably improve the situation, but it's not.
Might I add something to that? I don't know.
Sure.
Because that also could be an intervention to reconnect IJsselmeer and Markermeer, might improve some aspects, but you never will get back the shallow shoreline habitat that was lost by all the land reclamation. So that is a very specific element you only can deal with by interventions like Marker Wadden. So opening the dike, might also have an impact, but we don't know exactly what it could be. But it will never replace an intervention as Marker Wadden.
Yeah, you don't create the shallow habitats
Shoreline
and
habitat.
the land-water transitions.
Yes.
You create the migration opportunities.
Yes. And that
Yeah.
also could be very beneficial.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a question. Will you share this excellent presentation, please?
Yes.
Yes. And I'm checking the time. I think we have time for one more question, because then we are wanting to have a break and coffee and tea.
We collect all the questions.
We will collect
yeah.
all the questions in the meantime. Actually, this is a very difficult to answer question, but I think we will discuss this later on during the program, but I'm going to ask it to you anyway. Should we uitbreiden? Should we extend the Marker Wadden? That's
Should
also
we
a
have
question
more-
you get every year, probably.
Yeah, and yesterday as well. Yeah. Well, we didn't do any research on that.
That's honest.
So we concentrated on what's happening on the Marker Wadden. How can you build these islands? And now we see it's possible to build islands with mud, with unsuitable sediments. And we want to see the impact on the lake itself. And we didn't make any predictions of what might happen if you build more Marker Waddens at this moment.
I think we are going to answer that more extensively tomorrow, when we are going to talk about the policy implications. Tomorrow the minister will also come by, so probably he's the one to answer this question, I think. So thank you, Sacha, for your excellent presentation and for answering a few questions. We will collect all of them, and I wish you a well-deserved coffee break. I'll see you back in half an hour. So, welcome back, everyone. Yes, welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the coffee and you met some colleagues or some persons you have collaborated with the last 5 years. It feels like a kind of reunion, doesn't it, for most of you? I think a lot of people here know each other, or you have met some new persons. What are we going to do now, before lunch? We are going to discuss the research results, what surprised us most, and what questions are still left in the research to be answered. Lots of them, of course, but what are the main ones? And after that discussion, we are going to look at an example from Denmark. And after that, we are going to lunch. So that is your program for the next 1.5 hours. I would like to invite our distinguished panel. We have seen some of the panel members already, but I'd like to welcome them. The person you haven't seen yet is Liesbeth Bakker. She is a special professor Rewilding Ecology at Wageningen University, and you walked there. Liesbeth, welcome on stage. An applause for you. Yes, yes. We reserved a special table for everyone. So our next table is reserved for Harm Duel, but unfortunately he has corona. So if you have his phone number, text him to wish him good health. He's replaced the last moment by Sacha de Rijk. You've seen her as the research lead from Deltares. So Sacha, the stage is yours. And Roel Posthoorn, the director of Marker Wadden, or the father of Marker Wadden, I keep on saying it, working at Natuurmonumenten, and last is Katja Portegies, director safety and water at Rijkswaterstaat. Well, welcome here, dear panel. And my first question to the panel, but also to you, dear audience, I would like to you to grab your phone again and go to menti.com. I hope you have still opened the web page, and if you haven't, well, I think you all have. I don't see the QR code anymore. But my question to you is, what surprised you the most in the presentation of Sacha? And that means, what surprised you most about the research results? So what surprised you most about the research in the last 5 years? And you can answer it in 1 or 2 words. And while we are waiting for the results, I'll ask the person who I haven't seen yet. Liesbeth, what surprised you the most during the 5 last years?
Great question. I have a lot of more inside knowledge maybe, so I go a bit outside of Sacha's presentation. I can give 2 words, gull-billed tern, long-tailed duck. That will be my summary of most surprises. And I can actually explain what I mean with that.
Yeah, but can you say it again, the first word?
Gull-billed tern, lachstern in Dutch.
Ah, wow. Aha, that was a new word for me.
For many people, so that's okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Please.
Yeah, exactly.
Explain.
You think, okay, another tern. What's so special about it? And actually it's special because it's a symbolic bird, I would say, for the Marker Wadden story. Mm-hmm. And the reason is that there was a breeding pair. A chick hatched. In the end, unfortunately, the chick did not survive. But the concept that these terns recognized Marker Wadden as their breeding habitat is special, because the last gull-billed tern colony, that was huge, that was on bird paradise, an island also called the Beer. And that was a bird island, you can say, in the Europort area, close to Rotterdam. Mm-hmm. And that was in 1958 for the last time that these terns were breeding there, up till 500 pairs, so huge colonies. And the Beer has been wiped out for the industry. So that became a symbol, sort of nature destroyed by man for our prosperity, so to say. And now you see, with the return of this tern to Marker Wadden and seeing, hey, there's my habitat again, tells a story that you you can also, with the same power that we have to destroy nature, you can also bring it back.
Rebuild,
And
yeah.
then actually this bird recognize it.
Yeah.
And I think that's very special.
Thank you. I can imagine, Roel, that you have exactly the same words, or do you? Don't you want to mention these birds specifically?
Yeah, this bird also made me very happy. So of course, and there were many more surprises in bird life, but also in other life on the islands. So that made me very happy. But if you look at this word climate, what surprised me most was more in the beginning of the research process. That was the difficulty to get proper budgets for research. So that for me that was quite astonishing how hard it was and how much we had to collect from different sources. So Natuurmonumenten was supported by Rijkswaterstaat, the Ministry of Water Management. They did their share, Deltares, Ecoscience, universities also on their own expense. But it was much more difficult than I ever expected. So that was really, for me, that was also a new insight. And I thought, well, we make it rather difficult for us maybe to innovate if we organize it in this way. So that's still something that puzzles me.
Yeah. Yeah, but still the biggest word is collaboration. So that was the most surprising for most people here in the audience. Katja, could you maybe read what the audience said and maybe reflect on it?
Well, it's quite diverse, as you
Yeah.
can see.
Yeah.
So turbidity, collaboration, biodiversity, species, we can make it approach. I think that surprises me the most, the diversity of the results. If you hear the presentation of Sacha, and well, all the aspects of these words came together in this KIMA research program, and of course in the making of the Marker Wadden. So
Yeah.
that's
beautiful.
yes, that makes me very proud. And of course, what Roel says is true, because the financial arrangement is always difficult. But also with this project, we can learn from it, so we can take it to another project, and that's what I hope for. Yes.
Yeah, good. Sacha, it feels a bit strange to ask you what surprised you about your own presentation. But if you look at the audience, what they say, what does surprise you from their answers?
Well, what's surprising, what I'm very happy about is that the biggest word is collaboration. And I think this project is mainly about collaboration. Because yes, it was very difficult to get the funding for the research, and yes, it was difficult to work together with a contractor. But it was not impossible, and we learned a lot. And we learned a lot about working together with volunteers, self-employed specialists, universities, consultants. They all will work with a different background, using different methods.
Yeah.
And well, my surprise is that it worked, that we could collaborate, because this is such a wonderful project.
Yeah,
And
beautiful.
well, there's a common ground, because we're all curious what's going to happen and does it work?
Yeah, beautiful. We collected some questions from you, dear audience, and decided to use them for this panel discussion as well. So not only for the afternoon. So I have some surprises for you as well. Roel, looking back, what would you have done differently?
Well, so everything went at such high speed, so I'm quite pleased with that. And so really so what appeared to be very difficult in the beginning was to integrate the execution of a large work and doing research. When I started in 2012 already, I already had discussions with people from Deltares, whether we could also find budget from partly research budget that we can use for this learning by doing aspect, and that appeared very difficult to combine. So we had to more or less find our way between these two energies of building these islands and doing research on sometimes a rather delicate scale. And so for for other projects, maybe I even would try more to find some integration. These are two different worlds. So if you want to build something, that's another speed you're working on, and that's another energy. But to combine this, it brought us so many positive outcomes. We started with Marker Wadden with a lot of assumptions, not knowing all the answers from the beginning, but we started as good as we knew. And we were very, very happy with the research to challenge all these assumptions and to improve them. So,
yeah, thank you. It was a surprise for you to have this question. So I'm glad you were able to answer it. I have another difficult question. I'm not sure who to answer it, to ask it to. Should the government not, in these innovative projects, it's a Dutch question, shouldn't they standard make a financial, how do you say, budget vrijmaken?
I can take that one.
Should they financially make some, how do you
arrangement?
say?
Arrangement. Well, it's aligned with the answer, I think, of Roel, of what we've learned from this arrangement and this project. And I think that we've learned that making space for the development of knowledge in this domain of nature-based solutions took a lot of energy, and that makes very clear that when you start a program with a lot of projects, it's very important to talk about this arrangement in the beginning, and not during the project. So, well, that's, I think, a good ambition to have together and take it everywhere we go. That when you start a program, then think about the financial arrangement of the development of knowledge, and then you can take it from another project to another project, and not only within the project itself.
Yeah, I hope the minister will attend our live stream. We will tell him tomorrow this. Sacha, what topic wasn't part of the KIMA program? What should have been part of it?
Ooh,
that's a question from
that's
the
a
audience.
Difficult question, of course. While looking back, I think I would have liked more research on how people experience an area like Marker Wadden, and how it can affect the economy of the area, the economy of Lelystad and recreation activities. That could be a subject we didn't address sufficiently, but maybe in the future.
We are going to talk about these questions soon. I have one question left for Liesbeth. Was there a natural phenomenon that surprisingly aided the natural development? So,
yes.
It's a long question. Yeah,
it has a heart on it.
Yeah,
it's the last concept really landed well.
Beautiful question.
It's great. Yes, I think so. That you can consider the fact that the water became more clear at a certain stage in the places that were sheltered from the wind. That boosted phytoplankton, the growth of algae. And that was one of the ideas behind Marker Wadden also. But then the question is, are these going to be cyanobacterial blooms, or are these supporting the food web? And it did support the food web, so that was zooplankton profited from it, then fish, and eventually birds. And I think that's a natural cascade from the bottom to the top of the food web that has really, really strengthened the development of Marker Wadden ecosystem. Yeah,
beautiful. Yeah. If we look into the future a little bit, we are going to do that tomorrow as well. But for now, related to doing research, what are you most curious about in the future, and who would like to start first?
Well, what's going to be next? I think so. This is the first pioneer years, and we know that attracts a lot of birds. So it's nice that that indeed happened also. But the big question is after that. And there you get lots of dilemmas if you're into nature management. So you're going to be on crossroads. Do we let this just go, develop naturally? Do we manage it? What options are there? And where do we go? And where do we dare to go? That would be.
Where do we dare to go? Ooh, yeah.
I'm very curious about the impact of the Marker Wadden on the whole lake system. If the water quality actually improved for the whole system or just locally. And that's something we couldn't see yet because the activities just stopped last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have an open question?
Well, we were very happy that we had 5 years budget for research, but the questions that were partly addressed are on processes that occur on the long term. Yeah. So the dynamic coasts of Marker Wadden, they are at some locations surprisingly beautiful. They support the ecology, but how will it sustain in the long term on the north side of the archipelago, on the south side, etc. So these more long-term processes, to follow them, I'm very curious about that.
Yeah.
Well, I have only to add to that answers that I'm very curious if we can have a lot of patience and just to see what happens. And nature takes time in its development. And of course, I'm very curious if we can be the inspiration for other large projects that wants to be a nature-based solution for all the water management challenges we have. And well, actually, I really believe in this one. So I'm curious if we can be the project that inspire other people. Yes.
Yeah, but actually, that also depends on how the future will be. We cannot foresee if this will be a success as we think it is now, or can we?
Yes, well, we have to. That uncertainty will be normal.
That's definitely true. But if you would be able to look into the future, Liesbeth, what do you hope for?
I hope that at much larger scale we will develop new nature at large scale in the Netherlands as a sort of win-win scenario with adaptation to climate change, possibly climate change mitigation, and generally a boost in nature, with also many benefits for people in recreation, but also all sort of services.
So even more biodiversity than we see now.
Yeah, and more nature in general. I think it's proof of concept. We can do this if we want it. And you can think of many different contexts where we can apply that principle, I would say.
Yeah. And if you would define then nature, would it be quantitative, qualitative? What do you mean?
I mean love, I would say, but no, it's. I'm a scientist, so of course I'm about numbers, but so that's important. But I think it's way more important that we see as a society what nature brings us, and that's also goes also without numbers, I would say. So that we value it and also can use and appreciate it much better. And so not just as reserves, but as a living environment, so to say.
Yeah. Roel, you're smiling. Do you agree with this?
Of course. Yes. Well, personally, of course, I really love nature. So, but also as Natuurmonumenten, of course, we're striving to that. But then, again, if we do that with the perspective of the love for the landscape and the people that live there, and so that will be, for me, a very important way to move forward, also to connect it with people. And one of the surprises I remembered was also that yesterday we had a lot of publicity on the research results of Marker Wadden. So that was very rewarding. But also during the research process, there were visitors of the islands, sometimes press, and they saw some of you doing very difficult things, I don't know exactly what. And there was a lot of interest of the public of what are you doing, what are you trying to find out? And so there was a direct connection between the visitors of Marker Wadden and the research that was done there. And that was also very heartwarming. So to connect also your work directly with the public, then you see that a situation as Marker Wadden, where you really welcome people, is really, really good to get this connection. So I hope that also we can proceed working in this way.
Yeah, so more nature, more people connected to nature. Katja, would you like to add something to that? More?
Well, of course, the nature-based solutions in respect of all the challenges we have. So it's not only nature conservation, but also water management challenges we have to face. Yeah. And this combines it in this approach. So, well, I think nature-based solutions are a little bit of hope for the future.
Yeah. Sacha, what do you hope for the future?
Well, I agree, of course, with the others. More nature is perfect, but I also agree with Katja saying that we need a lot of innovations for the future, and we don't need them in 20 years. We need them now, and so my plea is to, well, when you imply an innovation, people feel uncomfortable because you cannot predict what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. But we need these innovations. So my plea is more. Make a combination with monitoring, research, and doing it. Not only for nature, but also for all the other challenges we face, just to make it faster.
Yeah. So, what would you like to? Would you like to say something to the minister if he was? If he would be watching?
Well, please make arrangements for this monitoring and research project in your budget if you are going to imply new measures.
Yeah, we're looking forward.
And it's not 50% of the budget most of the time.
Okay,
it's less.
Yeah. Do you agree, Liesbeth?
Yeah, I would say my advice would be to embrace nature as a solution for many of our current challenges.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so dear Minister, if you're watching. And Liesbeth, one question from the audience for you. I thought I should ask it. Do you expect that the huge productivity remains above and underwater?
Yeah, for a long time, yes. I do think so, because I think the system is now in a situation that you have this cycling of nutrients and then the boost in productivity, and I think that can be sustained for quite a long time, because it is very productive sediment that we're working with, and the condition is such that the nutrients from the sediment can be used by the plants and eventually the animals.
Yeah.
But it's maybe at a local level. Maybe I should add that in relation to Sacha's plea also to look at a larger scale.
Yeah, okay. Any last words to this optimistic reflection on research?
Well, as Natuurmonumenten, we really hope that we will be able to work on the next step of Marker Wadden. So this is the first phase. And so far it's a wish of Natuurmonumenten, maybe of some other parties, but also combine it with research again. For instance, on the issue of sustainability, working without carbon emissions, without nitrogen emissions. So that also could be really important in all the challenges we are facing. So I think continue working outside on improving situation for nature and water quality and combine that with learning new things. That would be at least my optimistic view. We hope to do so.
Yeah. I think we have said it all. So I would like I'd like to thank our panel, Liesbeth Bakker and Sacha de Rijk, Roel Posthoorn and Katja Portegies for their contribution. So thank you for now. Yes. And we'll talk about it tomorrow again, because I was already asking questions. We also address tomorrow. So what can we learn from other countries? Katja was already saying, I hope other countries can learn from us, and we are also going to talk about that. But let us have a look at a country that has similar problems, similar challenges as the Netherlands. So our keynote is doing research at the Department of Ecoscience at Aarhus University in Denmark. So please give him a warm welcome, Martin Søndergaard. And Martin, before you start, can I ask you a question?
Yes,
I would like to know what makes the Marker Wadden so special for you?
it's big.
It's big. Yes? Yeah.
At least compared to what we used to in Denmark. So it's a huge product compared to what we usually do.
Yeah. Okay, so we are curious to
Yeah.
know what happened in Denmark.
Yeah.
The
So I'm
stage is yours.
I'm the other country. But as you can see here, we may actually not be so different because we are part of the Danish kingdom. Now, this is a fantasy map, of course, but just to show that we are maybe not that different. We have many similarities between us. And I will give you a lot of examples here in the future. Just a little background, a small country, many people, many pigs, a lot of cattle, a lot of poultry, a lot of grain production. We produce 1,500 kilograms per grain per person per year. So maybe we should eat more grain than pigs in order to improve our quality of our environment. Agricultural area is very high compared to most all other countries in Europe. But there are many similarities between Denmark and the Netherlands also. We don't have that large lakes, of course, but at least most of them are above sea level. So I think we can use some of the results you have here, and you may also learn from what we have in Denmark. So this is just to say that we must expect that most of our ecosystems are impacted by our activities. And that's what we see all over in the world, and also in these very densely populated and used areas like Denmark and the Netherlands. This just to give an overview of the lakes we have in Denmark, more than 170,000 if we take the small ones, the small ponds also. They're all protected by law. Only the large ones, about 1,000, are included in this Water Framework Directive work, which put very restrictive results on what we expect from these lakes. Most of them are more or less impacted by human activities. And this is just a 50 years long story about how we used to have plans for improve the quality of these systems over the years. And we'll not go into details, but just to show that we have defined different criteria how to measure the quality and how we should improve the quality. And above this, we have these EU directives, the Habitats Directive and this Water Framework Directive, which then put more restrictions on how we should have the quality of these systems in the future and soon. So we've gone from the regional, maybe a national-based way to consider our ecosystems to EU-based systems. So that means that the way we define the quality today is mainly due to these different quality elements that you use in this Water Framework Directive. And this directive says that you should be at least in a good, high status. So if we just have an overview of our aquatic systems, these are the rivers, saying that only about 30% is in good or high status. If we take the lakes, it's only about 23%. And if we take the coastal areas, only about 5%. So there's a lot of work to do in order to improve the quality. So the way we see the problems in Denmark is mainly based on two things, I think. That's eutrophication. You have too many nutrients. Now I just heard about Marker Wadden, you would like to have more nutrients, but in Denmark we generally have too many nutrients. So that means that the lakes and the coastal areas becomes very turbid due to phytoplankton and very eutrophic. And the other thing is the loss of biodiversity, because as you did here in the Netherlands, we used our environment and our aquatic systems to have more farming areas and more cities. So the pressures here, we can say, is eutrophication is nutrient loss from input from wastewater, from cities, loss from agriculture, and then this legacy impact, because sometimes you build up nutrients in sediments, or you might change the biological structure, which takes time to reverse again. And loss of biodiversity because we have less habitats. That's what you see here also. And maybe the habitats we actually have also have a poor quality. That can be due to eutrophication, but also other things. And then, of course, the solutions are that we can try to improve the treatment of wastewater. We can maybe diverse the wastewater. And regarding the agriculture, we change the practice we do in agriculture. Buffer zones, ways to reduce the loading of nutrients, etc. For the legacy, we can maybe restore lakes, taking away the sediment or do something else. Or we can also just say, okay, we wait, because now we did something about the external sources. Now we just need to wait for the nature to respond to this. So it could be just a matter of time also. Habitats, we can re-establish lakes that we took away in the previous age. We can maybe establish new lakes and ponds. And finally, we also can improve our habitats. We can improve the habitat connectivity in order to have more diversity between them, and also a kind of ecological restoration. First example here is the drainage of Lake Filsø in the western part of Denmark here. This is how it looked 220 years ago, 2,000 big hectare lake. This is how it looked 50 years later, 750 hectares. And then for 70 years ago, it was down to 45 hectares. So almost completely taken away from nature. Then it was reversed because a private foundation bought this area and then just stopped pumping water away from the system. And then we have the lake back again. So now we had about 1,000 hectares back again. And this has actually been a project that has been going on for many parts of Denmark. We try to reverse the process by making new habitats, new lakes, especially in systems or in areas where you used to have a lake. So often you just have to stop the pumps and then the water comes back again and you have a lake. So that's very easy if you can spare the area. And that's, of course, a process you need to discuss with those who would like to have agriculture instead. But that's a process that's been going on for some decades now, or some time. One example here is this Lake Filsø I just showed. This is how it looks today. Very rich in species, macrophytes. We have more than 50 macrophyte species out there now. Very good location for bird watching, a lot of birds. We also have some occasion of fish death because of high loading of organic pollution from outside. But overall, we have been able to create much higher biodiversity than we had before. There was hardly any lake left, so of course. But the question is, as you also ask here, maybe will we be able to maintain this good quality? And what we've seen from other lakes in Denmark is that they tend to be a little less good after some years. That can be because you have more fish, you have some accumulation of sediment, resuspension maybe, as you also speculate about here, less invertebrates for the birds feeding on those, and maybe often a too high external loading of nutrients, so you'll shift to a very eutrophic state with a high cyanobacteria blooms and very turbid water. So we're not sure if all these results actually will go on for the future. Another type here is this Lake Aarhus. It's close to the city of Aarhus, where I come from. It's 100 hectare lake, established for 20 years ago as a kind of nature-based solution. This is how it looked 20 years ago. This is Lake Brabant, there's another lake, but there's just farming areas here. And this is how it looked just within few weeks actually, because the loading of water is very high to the system. So it was established within a few weeks actually, for 20 years ago. This is how it looks today. And the idea is that the main purpose was actually here to create a lake which could retain more nutrients, and that's especially nitrogen and also phosphorus, so we could decrease the loading of downstream areas like the Lake Brabant here, but also the coastal areas of Denmark. At the same time, we could also create more recreational it's an important recreational site for the cities of Aarhus. The positive impact was that you did actually retain phosphorus and nitrogen from the systems. You can retain up to almost 400 kilograms nitrogen per hectare per year. And it has also high recreational value for people in the area. Negative impact was that you, by having this lake receiving a lot of nutrients, you will of course have a very nutrient-rich lake, which very easily become very turbid. And another point that has been discussed also is that you decrease the migration potential for fish that need to migrate inside the water system between the lakes. And in the lakes there are some predators which will try to eat these trout, for example, moving up and down. So that's a discussion between people who would like to have the lake with stream inside, or people who like to avoid fish being eaten. So a discussion between different end users. So this example illustrates, I've just shown here the whole scene. You have some of these EU directives demanding good ecological quality that goes into the Danish laws, that goes into the Danish EPA, defines what is needed, what do we need to do. We can be part of this as advisors for the government and the EPAs. Then they make plans for what to do. These plans can go into action plans and also some financial options. There's a consultants process where you can have feedback on these action plans and maybe change them. They can go into the municipality of Aarhus, which can then decide we would like to apply for money for doing this project. They can apply and they can be maybe approved by EPA. Then the Aarhus municipality needs to make detailed plans how to do this. They need some acceptance by the landowners and the people living around. It may need some adjustments. Then it goes on, planning, constructions and so on. You need to inform the citizens close to the area because they would like to know if they have a lake in the garden in the future. And then you can have action make the lake. And then hopefully you'll have effects and people will be happy. That's the idealized way to do this. And that's showing it's a very long process. It takes a long time in order to do this from the very beginning, from EDUP. This water framework directive was implemented in 2000, so it takes a very long time. Another example that would like to show how it works from the Danish EPA, from laws to action. And the overall decision tree here is that you say that when you implement this directive, you say, do we have this good ecological quality? Yes, we have, then fine, we don't do anything more. No, it's not good. Then we need to do something, and the way we do is to reduce the loading because we have too much nutrients entering the systems and we need to reduce the nutrients. And even then, if you do this, you may have some delayed response. It takes too long time, and then you maybe need to consider lake restoration also. You may also say that you did enough already, so we just can go direct to this. But this usually you say that if this can be achieved within these 6 to 12 years, then it's okay. If it takes longer, then you need to do something to speed up the process. And there's another point here I would like to say. We are very focused maybe on the good quality, but maybe we should also focus more on the high quality, because that's maybe where you have the highest biodiversity. So we tend to get a mixture of relatively good, but not really good nature. So I think we should focus maybe more on the high quality. That's not what we do right now, in my opinion. So this is an example how we involve the public, the way the EPA works. And this is just to define the different types of lakes we have in this case. It can be done for rivers and coastal areas as well. And here we define the different ecological quality. And you can, it's in Danish, sorry, but you can define the different types. The overall quality are based on the fish or the magnifiers or the chemical status. And that way you can have a map showing the quality, different colors, from the high to the different bad qualities of the red ones. So in this area here, close to where I live, we have all types of lakes, from very high to very bad quality. So this just to show that, and everybody can go in and go to this website to see how is the status of my lake in my backyard. I think it's very important to involve the public also in order to make them interested for that issue. Action plans is then the next step. You need to define if it's not in a good status, what should I then do? So they describe the different districts and action plans, and they have this for all the lakes, for these almost 1,000 lakes. You have defined what is the loading of nutrients and how much do we need it in order to achieve a good quality. So that's defined for each lake. So far, we only use phosphorus as a method in order to improve the quality, because that's mostly the limiting factor. It's not always the case, but that's what is done right now. So has it worked? Well, this is just an example showing an index here from the second depth, how turbid it is, total nitrogen, chlorophyll, and total phosphorus for the past 3 decades. So you can see there's been some improvement relative to the 1989 where it started, and second has also increased. So there's been some improvements, but mainly in the beginning of the period. For the past 10, 15 years, there's been hardly any change. So we still have a lot of work to do. This is a little bit complex figure, I apologize, but this is just to illustrate that maybe we should not just focus on phosphorus, but also nitrogen. This one shows the inorganic nitrogen in a lot of lakes over the season from January to December, showing that during wintertime we have high concentrations, during summertime we have low, and then again high. So that indicates that you probably have nitrogen limitation during summertime. That also shows that you may not just focus on phosphorus, but also nitrogen part of the year. Yes. Then some examples from these restorations. Another one here. We have overall 2 strategies, you could say. The one is, as I already talked about, you should try to reduce the loading from outside to your system in order to improve it. And then you have this option of maybe doing lake restoration also. And there are 2 types overall here. You can try to reduce the phosphorus availability, so you have less production of phytoplankton. This can be done by different methods. You can add different phosphorus sorption, as you've also been working in here in the Netherlands. And the next one is that you can try to increase the filtration capacity of the zooplankton, so thereby create more clear water, and therefore also improve the quality of the lake. There are different options you can try to manipulate with the fish, as I'll show a little bit later here. So there are different options we've been trying to do in Denmark. They are marked here, the one we've been using, different types of restoring lakes. And I'll show you some examples here also. This is a historical view of how we did back in time. So the number of lakes that was restored is, especially in the 90s, they was very focused on restoring lakes. It's been a little bit less now, but now I think we're going back again. And the things we've been using have been this sediment, just one lake, and different types of biomanipulation by taking away the fish. So we've been working with different types of restoration over the years. Right now, the plans for the next period is that about 40 lakes should be restored by using these methods in Denmark for the next 6 years. Then just the overall effects you see. If you take away the fish, you can maybe manipulate this trophic structure by improving the grazing of the zooplankton and the phytoplankton. There's examples here trying to summarize the results we have from a lot of lakes, 40 lakes here, to see the improvement in second depth compared to the index here. It was higher than before, chlorophyll decreased, and it but there's a clear tendency that after some years it falls again back to the previous state. So these types of restorations may only work for some time, often 5 to 10 years. And the reason is probably that you often have too high loading from outside, so we cannot decrease the external loading enough. I would also like to point out that if you try to manipulate the biological system, you also often change the nutrients in the lake, even though you did not do anything to nutrients. And that's because you change the retention of nutrients when you create these more clear systems. This shows that both nitrogen and phosphorus decreased after the restoration of these systems. So you're able to decrease the loading of nutrients downstream these lakes also. There's one case study here, I will not go into details, just showing that we did a restoration here by taking away the fish twice actually, in the 80s and in 90s, and this is so what it works. We have the second depth here, fish removal, second depth improved, decreased again, and improved again after the second removal. And if you look at the chlorophyll, it decreased because of this fish removal, and also the cover of macrophytes improved after these two types of restorations. And if you try to put in this boundary that you would like to have according to this Water Framework Directive, which is 25 in this case, then you're actually able to improve the quality of these systems enough in order to say this is a good status. But it did not last for a long time, as you can see here. I mean, it's just, yeah. Then another example, I call it Lake Restoration version 2. Because in this restoration, we would like to restore the lake and also reuse or recycle the phosphorus in the system. So the overall aim is to take away the phosphorus-rich sediment, which creates too high eutrophication in the system, and then reuse the phosphorus in the sediment also. So we don't run out of phosphorus in the future, which could be the case. So we should realize that phosphorus is an important source we should cherish, not something we need to get rid of. So it's a product which is again founded by private foundations actually, and it started in 2020 and will run, we hope, until 2025. It involves several universities. So this year there will be an experimental take-up of the nutrients, and then we'll have a full scale later. So just have to speed a little bit up here now. So the problem is that we take a lot away of the phosphorus. We create a lot of problems because you have accumulation of nutrients, eutrophic conditions, and by doing this you could say we can maybe reverse this, having clear lake, and at the same time reuse the phosphorus from the system. So we can have better quality in the lake and we can reuse phosphorus. So just a few results from this Lake Ormstrup here, just to show that how we also learn from this system. And the way I would like to show here is that it's very important that you know your systems in order to know what's going on. This shows just something about the temperature stratification in this lake. It's just 5 meters deep. This shows that at a depth of 4 meters, oxygen disappears within a few days in this period from May to June 2021. Then it goes back in, disappears, goes back in, disappears. This is just to show how variable such a system, small system, is. So this has marked influence on the greenhouse gas emissions and also the nutrient cycling between the sediment and water. Yeah, it's just, I will just very fast show these very fast changes within just 1 hour. It goes from completely without oxygen to completely oxygenated. At the same time, you have a lot of methane being released from sediment. This corresponds actually to 35,000 kilometers in a car. Just this one event from this 12-hectare big lake. So a very big impact. So conclusions, it's important to know your system in order to manage it the correct way. So the future, you should try to, the greenhouse gas emissions, you could reduce that by making more clear lakes. Biodiversity, you could also increase that by taking away the nutrients and restore them, more clean water. Nutrient retention could be improved, and which would be the benefits from the downstream areas, the coastal areas also. And you can also try to avoid these climate effects, because we know they're coming, they're already here, so we need to do something about to speed up this process in order to maintain the clear water in these lakes. So a few concluding remarks here, based on these very fast examples here. It's research and knowledge on your ecosystem are important to optimize the management. They are often much more complex than we think. That's what we learned from many of the Danish results. You cannot just use one example and transpose that to other ones. And follow up on the management, important to learn for the future. I think that's also what we just heard here. It's important to follow up. What did we do and what can we learn from this? And then the involvement of the public and the decision makers, those with the money, are also important part of the management of our systems. So this is very brief to some of the way we handle the data of managed lakes in Denmark. So, danke well.
Yeah. I can imagine you'd like to know more about Denmark. So if you have any questions, I'll come to you with a microphone. And I already see in hand. And we do this for the live stream to talk into the microphone. So
okay, thanks. Yeah. Yes, I'm Judith Klosseman from Wageningen. My question is, shouldn't we embrace nutrient-rich ecosystems more to solve this?
Yeah, I also saw when you presented the study from Marker Wadden here that you would like to increase the productivity. The problem is in most Danish lakes is that we have too much productivity because too many nutrients create too many phytoplankton, turbid water, the microfibers disappear, you have a less biodiversity, and you cannot fulfill the requirements in the EU Water Framework Directive.
What about the swamp?
The swamp. And what do you mean by swamp? Wetlands?
Nutrient-rich swamp.
What?
Instead of a clear lake.
sorry, instead of
a nutrient-rich swamp that grows sky high because it has so many nutrients. Why not?
Why not having those? Yeah, well, the natural development of a lake would also be it becomes a swamp over the years because you have a sedimentation of organic matter and something coming from outside to the lake. So the natural change of a lake would be from a very deep to very shallow to a swamp or maybe terrestrial ecosystem over the time. And you could say that what we as humans are doing is that we speed up this process because we put in more nutrients. We maybe also increase the sedimentation of inorganic and organic matter to the system. So you speed up the natural process from water filled area to more or less terrestrial system. But I'm not arguing that you should not have swamps because that's also an important ecosystem. So it's a decision you need to take between what you like to have. But in this case, we have a lot of lakes which we would like to preserve for the future.
Instead of swamps, yeah. Are there any more questions? Yes, I would love to throw this mic to you, but I'm coming to you. So, yeah, for this time. Yeah. I don't like to give my microphone away, but...
I'm Giordano Lipari. I'm independent consultant in the Netherlands for their motion. I have two questions.
One question, please.
Okay. No, I have one question with two sub-questions to translate your experience to the Dutch situation. One is about depth. I saw depth varying from 1 meter to 5 meters. And did you find that shallow or deeper lakes are more difficult to handle? For instance, the deeper lakes are easy to restore or not, depending on the situation in the Netherlands. And the second thing, both countries are windy, but it would be nice to see what is the difference in the windiness of the two countries. It's just a future request. So I think the answer you can, the question you can address now is about how depth complicates your effort to restore the lakes.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Water depth involves a lot of different factors. You could say if you have a very shallow water, then you have easily resuspension. But you also more easily have light to the bottom. So you can have a primary production going on. You can have the macrophytes. You can have the epiphytes growing on the sediment surface. But at the same time, you also, the less water you have, the more nutrient-rich it usually is, because the nutrients coming from outside is not diluted that much compared to if you have a more deep lake. So I think in Denmark we work with the two types depending on the depth, and we have a discrimination at a mean depth of 3 meters, but it's not a real strict value, but they are different and they work in different ways. So I think it's important before you do this, try to consider which kind of system you have. And that's also what I would like to show here, that you need to know your system before you take action, and have to make the right decisions on which action to take. But it differs. The water level is important.
Okay.
Yes.
I think we have room for one more question.
Harm van Geest, aquatic ecologist at University of Amsterdam. Thank you for the nice presentation. Your first slide was on the pigs, and in the rest of the slides you often use the word external loading. I think this refers to the pigs. My question is, should we as aquatic ecologists not much more look to what we do on the land instead of to what we do in the water?
In my opinion, yes. The first option you need to consider is what you do on land. It could be from pigs or other types of pigs, humans. But you need to consider what comes to the lake from outside, because that's what sets the scene. And once you did that, you can try to do something in the lake, restoration, or other things you need to do. But the most important thing is try to control what comes into the system. And you may also have this legacy. It may take time for the lake to respond to change in the loading. And it may take a long time. It's what we see from many lakes and also from the coastal areas maybe. So you need to know that it takes time before you take action, before you see some changes maybe in your system.
Would that also be your advice to this Marker Wadden project, to have a more broad view on the system?
Yeah, I can maybe ask some of you afterwards, because I don't know your system very well. I know it's very big compared to what we have in Denmark, but I don't know what is the Newton stations, how does it work. I saw it was very turbid. Why is it so turbid, I would ask, because you did not change the water level in the lake. That was unchanged after the dam. So something must have been going on between building that dam and the situation you have today. I would like to know that also. So I think you need to know your system. That's also my main point here. You need to know your system before you respond and do something. Yeah. And you also need to know afterwards, when you did the biomanipulation or the manipulation of the system, how did it then respond? How can we explain it? Of course, I come from the research area, therefore this is my topic, but I also think that research is the backbone for taking the right decisions.
And I'd like to conclude with that.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Martin Søndergaard. Thank you. So it's 12:15, I believe. I left my timer there, but it's approximately. So thank you for keeping time, dear audience, for me. It's time, almost time for our lunch. But I think it's good already to look at the schedule of the workshops. They are shown on the screens in the venue in here, fortunately. So. Now you know where to go. And the workshops are not here, but at I believe, so at the other side of the water. No? Oh, sorry. Oh, now I'm confused, and I'm confusing you too. I'm sorry for that. So today we are spending here, fortunately. So we're having a lunch and we're doing the workshops in here. Tomorrow we are going to see each other again at I believe. Who will be there tomorrow? Few hands here. Okay, so almost half of the audience I will see back tomorrow. Please keep your badge also for tomorrow. I think it's time to wish you a good lunch. So hope to see you tomorrow again and a good afternoon with the workshops. Thank you so much.